Now keep your texts and your comments coming in. 083 3333 975 text or WhatsApp, or you can call Audrey on 051 846 123. If my mother is listening in Newtown Kennedy in County Wicklow, happy birthday, Mammy. A text in from Ben in Portlaw. I think the soldiers of destiny are imploding due to Micheál Martin's obsession with becoming Taoiseach. Another person, as a constituency delegate for Waterford, I resigned because our leader stated he'd go into government with Fine Gael without any consultation with the party. Can you explain to your listeners, says this texter, of getting 25% in the election, the vote is not the majority. Sinn Féin are in government in the north. They're not covering themselves in glory. How are they handling the situation there? Good morning, Damien. I get my diesel in Youghal at €1.11. Very good value from Pat as well in Tallow. Take care. Thank you very much for that. Now, are we going to hear this song, this theme tune during the summer? Are we going to hear it? Let's see if we're going to hear it or not. Liam Cahill, Waterford Senior Hurling Manager, good morning.
Good morning, Damien. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Hope you're keeping well and all the family good?
All good. All good, thank God.
Liam, the headlines are screaming out this morning. Straight knockout championship planned for autumn. This follows the GAA media release yesterday regarding the COVID-19 update. What's your take on it? What's your reaction?
Well, I suppose, Damien, it was always looking like that when I suppose there was no real direction coming as of late. So I suppose everybody was prepared in their heads, both players and management, that if this championship did happen, it would be coming on a knockout basis. So now at least we know it's October time, if at all. So there's some little bit of clarity there. But I suppose in the times we're in, what more clarity can be given? Only what came out yesterday, really.
Talk to me about training and talk to me about how yourself and the lads are managing with this. Like we heard Davy Fitzgerald saying on the 6 o'clock news last night, he questioned the call to push back any sort of collective training until the end of July. What's your views on it, please, Liam?
I'm not really sure. Like, Damien, it is tough going at the moment behind the scenes with guys working individually. Obviously, in a team sport, it's that bit easier to have a number of fellas around you and to keep you going on that. But the restrictions are there and they have to be adhered to. And I suppose government guidance and the GA in particular, the GA have always said that they're going to abide by whatever guidance they get from the health authorities and that. So I think everybody wants to make sure that they're going to give themselves the best of chances possible to reopen things, come July. That's the date we're aiming to now. And I suppose collectively in groups of 3s and 4s, there is a case for it, but at the end of the day, it's not going to make much of a difference come July if it's a thing that we're able to progress on and open things up then that bit safer. So to me, it's not really that important. It's another number of weeks, and people just are adjusted to it now, and we're adjusted to it, and we'll be ready to go when the bans or the restrictions are lifted.
And what is the situation regarding training for your own players at present? Like, they all have their own individual plans. I presume they're doing it in effectively homemade gyms or pucking the ball out the back. Would you sort of be able to give a percentage of how much an inter-county hurler would fall back in terms of fitness at times like this?
Yeah, it's I suppose, Damien, it's really from the hurling perspective. All teams up to when the restrictions came in would have had a great base from the physical fitness side of things. So the last couple of weeks would have been really around working collectively on the speed of your hurling and match based games and training and what have you. So that perspective, I'd say players hurling at the level they're playing at wouldn't be anywhere near where it should be if we were able to train over the last number of weeks. Physically, I think most inter-county players now are more or less in a routine mechanism that they have their they have a fair handle on what they need to be at physically. So deterioration, I'm not sure, to be honest with you. They're probably, you're probably looking at fellas maybe tapering back, I suppose, an extra 30% when they're not in a team environment to kind of push themselves on. So, look, it's not ideal, but again, it's not as if they're going to lose all that fitness they had put into the bank anyway over the last couple of weeks or months. So, not a major crisis. You'd imagine after 2 or 3 months together, or 3 weeks max, I'd say, together, fellas should be fairly well back up to the pace again.
Yeah, they'd make a right burst at it, as they say.
Yeah, exactly.
Liam Dunn used to say that in advance of training over in Wexford as well when he was intercounty. Do you think there should be looking at the idea of just abandoning the championship altogether for this year?
Yeah, there's definitely a case for it. I think, again, come July, that scenario will be unavoidable. There'll have to be an answer to that come then, I'd imagine. And I think the GA are giving it every chance. That's why, I was looking for clarity there last week or the week before last, ahead of maybe most people publicly, and I can see now, like, they've given us a little bit of where things are going, in fairness to them, and that's fine. But I definitely think by July they'll have to nail their colours to the mast and say whether 2020 is going to happen or not. And look, if it doesn't happen, that's it. It's not the end of the world. Sure, we'll be all disappointed to have the summer gone by and gone to waste, as we'll say, from a GA perspective. But if that means that we can look forward to a safe and healthy 2021, well then sure, that really is the bottom line.
Yeah, as you say, health is the priority in all of this. Liam, thank you, and to all your squad and all your colleagues and playing staff and coaches, hope you stay safe. And would you have any message out there for any young GA players frustrated at all this, like even youngsters just thinking, will we ever get back? We will get back, won't we, Liam?
Of course we will, yeah. And I suppose it's a real time for everybody, no matter what age you are, to really, I suppose, grasp the concept of what sport means to people and what it does for your everyday, I suppose, well-being. And that's a word that's bandied about a lot at the moment. But what it does for your whole demeanour and your I suppose, something to look forward to. And when it comes back, we'll really appreciate for what it's for. I suppose at times we take it for granted and we're quick to jump, I suppose, on the bandwagon and be critical of this, that and the other, and it's not until it's taken away you see how hard it is to survive without it. So look, I think there'll be a big appreciation when the gates open up again and everybody gets back out onto the GA fields, and I think that's the whole idea of the GA and the organisation as a whole, is to be able to offer that kind of facility to people in parishes and clubs and towns around the country. Very well said, Liam. Thanks very, very much. Okay, thanks, Damien. Thanks, Liam. Thanks, appreciate it. What do you think? 083 333 975. We've a text in from Bill and Breda in Lismore. I hope there will be spectators allowed to go to the matches, having been going to matches for as long as we can remember. And it's like a time that Waterford would win in All-Ireland, and imagine not being in the ground to see it. It would be heartbreak. Very, very good point, Bill and Breda. Just imagine Waterford winning All-Ireland hurling and no fans being there. Another texter, what part of contact sport don't people understand? We should stop it. Stop young family members training and playing. It's too dangerous, says this texter. Thomas said, as an avid Waterford supporter and follower of the GAA, why don't they just cancel 2020? Do we really want to see hurling and football in the muck and rain in the winter months, or is it all about money, said Tom. On the caretaker government, here's a good one. I think the caretaker government and the civil servants should be left in place till October. Then we should, or could, go to the country and have another election and be done with all this nonsense of a national government. Also, Fianna Fáil will never again hold power in this country on their own. There is one problem regarding that, the caretaker government. We have to have effectively an election for a new Taoiseach, and the Shannon has to be convened under the Constitution to effectively enact any laws. So there is a very specific reason why there has to be a new government elected as such. Has home heating oil gone up in the prices, says this texter. Another texter to WhatsApp, you could lose the savings depending on how far you have to travel to get your car filled.
Because you could be stopped by the Gardaí and turned back? That's a very, very good point. Good morning, Damien. I train a club team. There is no way games can go ahead until there is a vaccine available. How can you put 30 or 35 people into a dressing room? Each player would need their own water bottle, so you'd need 20, 15, 20 water carriers who'd wash the jerseys afterwards. The slitter would have to be sterilised every time it goes out to play. It's just not going to happen. What do you think? Let us know. 083 333 975. How are your children getting on? How are the children getting on? Your grandchildren? We're going to hear from them next. 083 333 975. Audrey is waiting for your calls on 051 846 123. And Seamus O'Donnell, Councillor Seamus O'Donnell, has been on to say he was a member of Fianna Fáil for 30 years. As we know, he now stands as an independent and has very good support in his area down around Ring and Old Farish. And he agrees totally with Seamus O'Neill. Tom also phoned in, Tom in Tramore, very concerned about the news regarding people in Aer Lingus flights not filling out forms about where they are going to be staying. He says that this shouldn't be allowed. A woman phoned in to know, do we know anything about the Susie grant? She filled out the application with her son last week and they had to ask for income details, but circumstances have now changed. How can they determine accurately who should get a grant when circumstances on income are changing so rapidly? Another texter saying, is the car tax offices closed? And this person's having problems getting the car tax sorted online. Good morning, Damien. There's a lot of 5G masts going up around the country and the county and across the world, says this texter. Another person saying, I think JA games can be done without for this year. All of us have to go without our own social events. Very difficult scenario there, as we've heard. Speaking of difficult scenarios, children have had a very difficult time, a lot of them. We've been listening to children of those that work in the broadcast centre here. Shona and Thomas Cousins, Zoe and Luke Brown, Faye and Patrick Smith, Anna May and Tilly and Connor Collison, and ranging from ages 5 to 12. What have we been trying to do on this programme over the last 2 months, and we've always tried to do this, is reflect the views of all the different listeners and their children and their parents and grandparents, and also particularly at this difficult time, just to get a view about how people are really feeling. It's about, I suppose, battling through this crisis, and we all are going to come out on the other side. Our children are so important. Julie, our producer, has put this together. It's a lovely little compilation. It starts with Anna May.
My name's Anna May Cloakley. I go to St John of God School and I'm 8 years old.
What class are you in?
I'm in second class and I'm supposed to make my communion.
So now that schools aren't going to be back until September, how do you feel about everything?
I'm a bit upset because I don't get to make my communion and I'll have to wait until September.
How do you feel about the homework you get and everything that you have to do at school from home?
I think it's pretty boring because all I do is just mental maths, English, and then more maths and then more English. It's a bit boring.
How are you spending your time at home? What are you doing to keep yourself busy?
I'm normally doing gymnastics in my room, or I'm going out for a walk, or I'm watching TV. But most of the time I'm talking to my cousin and my friends, and we play Roblox a lot with each other. I talk to them on Zoom on House Party.
So, Connor, it's been 8 weeks since your school, Waterpark Primary School, closed. How do you feel about it now? You were happy for no school back then. How do you feel now that it's not going to open until September?
Kind of sad, and I miss all my friends.
And how do you feel about all the schoolwork at home?
It takes a bit less time, but I kind of miss my friends being right beside me and playing on the yard with all my friends.
What's the thing that you miss the most? What's the thing that you can't wait to do when we're allowed to see people? Or
give everyone a big hug. Probably like Noam or James or Rachel.
What about your grannies and granddads? And
a big hug as well. And to Rudy and Frankie and Ali and Leica.
The dogs.
Well, I'm in 6th class and I'm going to be missing my last year of primary school, and I feel pretty sad because I won't be able to go on my school tour or do my confirmation on the due date or get my uniform signed on the last day, so I feel kind of sad about that.
Okay, and how are you getting on at home with the schoolwork, etc.?
The schoolwork is a little bit difficult without my teacher there to guide me, but other than that, it's fine. Yeah.
And what are you missing the most now? It's going on a long time. How do you feel? What are you missing?
I miss doing all my activities after school, and I also miss my friends.
Hi, my name is Tilly Cloakley.
How old are you, Tilly?
5.
And what school are you in?
Sunshine Gods.
And what class are you in?
Junior infants class.
And how are you finding all the coronavirus and being at home all the time? Are you missing anything? Are you enjoying yourself?
I'm I'm sad because I really like school.
Okay. And are you enjoying doing the homework with your daddy?
Yes.
Is it very hard?
Yes.
Is it? And is it because your daddy's a really crap teacher, or is it because the homework is hard?
The homework's hard.
Oh, so daddy's a good teacher?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Tilly. And what are you doing to have fun at home?
I do exercises and I watch TV and I walk and I call my cousin and my best friend.
To have a chat?
Yeah.
And who's your best friend?
Circa.
Circa, okay. And are you sad or happy that there's no school now until September?
Sad.
Why?
I miss my friends.
And is there anything you want to tell everybody that's listening what to do?
Wash your hands at home.
Okay. Thank you, Tilly.
Bye. My name's Patrick. My age is 9 and I'm in 3rd class, almost 4th.
Does it feel like a long time since you were at school, Patrick?
Yes, and it is. I don't really love school. I just kind of miss seeing everyone.
Anything else?
That I hate the coronavirus. I can't do very much. I can't go many places. I can't see my friends. Can't go to school. I can barely do anything.
Are you bored at all, or do you have enough things to keep busy?
I get bored sometimes, and then other times I'm not.
And what about the schoolwork how are you getting on with that?
Not very well. I don't know, I just don't do a lot of it.
Is it hard to learn when you're not in the classroom?
Sort of. I like being around people when I do my work. I feel like I won't be in school again because I've been stuck in for a long time and I missed my friends so much. I've been doing my homework good and I keep on getting everything right. I do PE with Joe and I watch the Homeschool Hub. I have seen one of my friends on FaceTime. Well, I heard on the news that we might be back to school in September, so maybe September.
So Thomas, you've been told that you'll have no school between now and September. How does that make you feel?
Well, it makes me feel sad because I won't be able to see me friends for another while yet. And sport, I won't be getting back to that until another while yet. So.
And how are you getting on at home?
I'm getting on grand. Well, I mean, it's the same. Just you don't get to see your friends. The homework is the same.
Schoolwork, is it? How's your teacher at home?
She's a bit harsh with the homework.
I feel that it's hard for everyone because if you're working and you're working from home and maybe it's not the easiest to work from home because you don't have a good kind of setup for as you do in work. And definitely when we're doing our homework at home, it's not the easiest because you're doing it on your own
and not with anyone else like you normally do in school. I have been on a couple of video calls and Zoom meetings with my friends. We normally talk and we normally play our Nintendo Switches together. What I'm hoping is we're getting back to school for the next year of school, but what I think is going to happen is we're going to be back mid-September. I think it's just crazy that we might actually be witnessing history, because in about 10 years from now, people will look back on this and we can say we survived through it.
My name is Faye. I'm 7 years old and I'm in first class.
How have you been getting on since you were in school last, Faye?
Pretty much really bad. Because I can't see my friends.
Is that it?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, it's because you can't really see them at the same time, and it's boring having to work like at your house. When at school it's pretty much longer, and at home it's not really that long.
Well, we can always arrange for you to do more schoolwork during the day if you'd like that.
That's not what I mean. I mean, like, it's not really that good. I mostly like it when my actual teacher calls it out and he's not going on calls all the time.
And it's a long time between now and September too, isn't it?
Yeah, 4 months is pretty much a long time. And I don't know if any flights are going to be going forth in this year.
You worried about your holiday, is it?
Yeah, I really want to go. And I can't wait another year.
Me too.
It's too long.
It's too long. Faye Smith ending that. Isn't that a lovely report? Thank you so much, Julie, for putting that together. And thank you all those that took part, and the children especially. Where will we be in 10 years' time listening to that? Just lovely, isn't it? Really, really nice. Stay with us. Now, in a minute, we're going to be talking about, I suppose, a phased reopening of the local economy, steps that could be taken with that. Firstly, a couple of your text. As the car park at Ballyrafter in Lismore closed, I feel sorry for some elderly people who would normally or sometimes use it, says this texter. Regarding the tax office, yes, it is closed. You can get a postal order and send it off. The tax will be back in 3 days. Another person saying that there is a post box outside City Hall office on the Mall. If you are down there, and the staff check the post box every day, so you can put it in there if you want. Another person saying about the Susie grant, not sure if it goes by your income from 1 year or for other years as well. And other people texting about golf clubs. We're going to come back to that in a little while. Firstly, I'm going to go straight to John Cummins. Senator John Cummins, good morning.
Good morning, Damien.
Thanks very much for joining us.
No problem.
We're going to talk about business supports and politics, and you're proposing a 5-step phased reopening of the local economy. Firstly, the debate that we've had this morning regarding Fianna Fáil and going into coalition government. What's the situation regarding Fine Gael? Will everybody have a vote within Fine Gael to vote on any proposed deal, or how does it work?
The process, I suppose, it's a weighted system in Fine Gael. Yes, the membership have a vote. I think it's 25%, and councillors 15. The parliamentary party, I think it's 45, and the national executive is 15. So similar to when we had the leadership contest between Leo Varadkar and Simon Coveney. So for Waterford and for each constituency, there'll be 10 delegates that will be nominated locally by the party to cast their votes, and the constituency is determining how those 10 delegates will be appointed, and whether they'll be bound by the decision of the overall majority of the constituency, or whether it will be weighted. So if it was 60-40 one way or another, would 6 delegates be in favour against and or the other way? So those details are being worked out, but yes, absolutely, the texts and letters have gone out to the membership in Waterford already.
OK, very good. Now, we've heard about the government's national plan for reopening the economy and the phased, I suppose, plan that they have in society in the coming months. What should be done locally, do you think, following, I suppose, all the hard work and the diligence that people have shown in Waterford City and County and the South East and other parts as well? But particularly, we've had a really good result so far in terms of the numbers in Waterford. What do you think should be done, John?
Yeah, and I think it's important to acknowledge that, Damien. I think the people of Waterford and the South East have done phenomenally well, in suppressing the virus and reducing the spread of infection. And it's important that we keep that going in the weeks and months ahead. We have, the lowest incidence rate per 100,000 population in the country. And, that's testament to the work of every single individual.
And by saying that, sorry for interrupting, we in no way want to underplay the torment and the stress that people have had to suffer if there's deaths and stuff like that as well. So that's just the general point, of course, yeah.
Of course not. And, I think I would speak for everyone in passing on our condolences and sympathies to everyone that unfortunately has passed away or suffered as a result of this virus. But, there were positive soundings as well from the Chief Medical Officer last night, in saying that 78% of all those that have contracted the virus have now fully recovered. So that's certainly a positive figure, but that's not to downplay, obviously, of course, those that have been tragically affected. In terms of the local economy, I think most of the public will have seen Leo Varadkar outline the roadmap last Friday. I think it's been widely welcomed by everyone. We had a parliamentary party meeting on Tuesday, and the Taoiseach said he was open to engaging with stakeholders for various sectors in terms of moving certain phases for certain sectors. It's not set in stone, but of course everything will always be done on health advice. But it has given a plan and a roadmap and allowed businesses, I suppose, sight for the first time on how we get out the other end of this crisis. And I suppose that's the important thing. And on Saturday, which was probably even more important than Friday's announcement, was the announcement of €6.5 billion of a package for businesses on top of the €4 billion that's already been announced for the wage subsidy and the unemployment schemes. And that put a number of measures in place for businesses locally, obviously, and nationally. And just to name a few of them, there's a rates waiver for 3 months for affected businesses from the 27th of March. And importantly, government has said that they'll make up that shortfall to local authorities so that they can continue to provide the full service to the public. There'll be a restart grant of up to €10,000 for businesses based on the rates that they paid in 2019. And there'll be a warehousing of tax liabilities for a period of 12 months after the recommencement of trading. And that'll provide vital liquidity to businesses to allow them to get back on their feet. And there's also a stabilisation and recovery fund of €2 billion and a €2 billion credit guarantee scheme to provide lending for SMEs at below market rents. So, there's a large suite of measures that have been put in place to help businesses to restart and rehire and reopen in a phased way in accordance with the roadmap that was outlined on Friday.
OK. Do you think there will be a disconnect between what the government's trying to do nationally and what, for example, councils and local chambers and business groups might want to try and do locally? We've heard, obviously, from the German perspective that it's a bigger federal state and far bigger population. But do you think there might be a disconnect, John, between that hopes and plans by the government nationally and what plays out on the ground? It's important that there is no disconnect.
Yes, it's very important that there's no disconnect, and certainly there needs to be, clarity brought on various sectors, that have been able to put social distancing measures in place, like, training facilities or dog groomers or, personal groomers. We all need personal groomers, I think, now at this stage. But if things can be done in a safe way, certainly there is an ability to be able to change phases, and that's why the government will engage with any representative organisations in relation to the reopening and restarting of our economy. But, particularly building and construction sites, when we closed those overnight, there was 200,000 people nationally went on to either the COVID unemployment payment or onto the wage subsidy scheme. So obviously reopening them will, put a dent obviously in terms of our unemployment figures, and that's to be welcomed once it can be done obviously in a safe and sustainable way, and that goes for all of the sectors. But it has to be done in a coordinated and phased way. I don't think, we can't just press the switch and go back to normal. As everyone has said, we're going to be going back to a new normal, and that's the reality of the situation.
Yeah. John, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
No problem, Damien. Thank you, and thanks for the listen.
Thank you. John Cummins, Senator, Fine Gael Senator John Cummins, talking to us there about business supports. What do you think? Will there be that disconnect? Speaking of disconnect, some people are saying there's still a disconnect between what some people are doing on the streets. I walked past 4 young lads last night, all from different families, not a foot of distance between them. If this continues, we'll never get out of this. Another person texting, what about supermarkets? Should supermarket workers be wearing masks now, particularly those working in, we'd say, meat and deli sections? Is it right, or am I overreacting, says this texter. Another texter, my grandson is in 6th class at St. Stephen's School in Waterford. His teacher sent a lovely handwritten card, which I thought was brilliant, considering the number in the class. Well done to him. We got a few texts about Bishop Alphonsus in Tramore last night, and the exposition of the Blessed Sacrament, I think is what they were saying. We might deal with that next. And also, we're going to be finding out about what is happening in Italy. Now, texts and comments still coming in. Well done, John, for all your ongoing input and necessary current affairs. And well done, WLR, says Sean. Thanks for all the information and the variety. And other people texting in about the children, saying, wasn't that lovely this morning? We've contacted the Bishop's office about that, and we'll get back to them about, I suppose, how churches are trying to reach out to their flock, and is the exposition of the Blessed Sacrament been going around different parts of the city and county. We might deal with that tomorrow. We haven't been able to get or talk to Bishop Fonzie yet this morning. Yesterday I did a very quick interview with Lavinia Doyle, a Waterford native resident of the Lombardy region in Italy. I wasn't able to play it yesterday, but it's an important interview because I suppose it puts into context what we're going through here and what they've had to go through in Italy. Lavinia is from Waterford originally. I interviewed her father not so long ago. So here's the little chat I had with Lavinia.
Good morning, Damien. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you? Tell me and tell our listeners again, where are you, please?
I'm quite well, thanks. I live in the province of Deise, which is in the region of Lombardy. We're about an hour west of Milan, and we're about 2 hours drive from the worst hit areas, Bergamo and Lodi and Lodigiano.
And before I forget it, I interviewed your father in St. John's Park there a few weeks ago. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Down in John Phillis there. I think you were chatting to him. And I saw the lovely video as well on the WLR page. It was great to see everybody from home. And that really cheered us up too. So it was lovely.
How have you been? We spoke to you 4 to 5 weeks ago, and things were very difficult and the lockdown was still in place. Now we have a situation that is evolving.
Yeah, it's evolving in that for the last, this has been going on for, we hit 10 weeks of full lockdown. I wasn't allowed even to go for a walk with my son, who is 15 now, because we could only go 200-metre distance individually. That was extremely difficult because I couldn't leave him alone. He's affected by Asperger's, so I couldn't leave him alone, and I couldn't bring him with me for a walk. So we were completely locked in the house, basically for 10 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was extremely difficult. I organised to be able to go shopping on a Sunday morning early when his dad would come and stay with him for a couple of hours. We've also been obligated to follow mandatory online school That's 6 mornings a week for 6 hours each day. And again, because of his Asperger condition, I'm full-time doing that. I lost my job because I teach English in middle school, and because of the laws protecting the privacy of minors as an external, I couldn't continue my job either.
And how have you been managing for money? Did the government put in place a similar type of payment as they did in Ireland?
No, not a chance. They put in place very, very rigid restrictions whereby independent business owners could apply, and some of them received €600 one-off payment, and that's it.
And what about employees? How about yourself? How have you managed to continue getting food and things?
I've only managed because my father sent me some money, and that's it. I have nothing.
You have nothing. You have nothing.
Nothing. It's been impossible because even our electricity bills, our gas bills are still coming in. Things have to be paid. Rent has to be paid. Mortgages have to be paid. And people many people are gone to the point where they've completely folded their businesses. They've handed the keys back to the local councils. They've now got a black mark on their names for 10 years. Which can only be cleared if they pay a huge fine. It's just been extremely, extremely difficult, and my family have helped me out. Otherwise, we'd be on the street.
And what about?
It's really hard.
That sounds horrendous, Lavinia. What about social welfare payments?
That doesn't exist over here. There's people receive a percentage of a previous wage if they have worked in full-time permanent employment for at least 2 years before their position of unemployment, and then they will receive a 70% payment of it amounts to about €800 a month. But people have to satisfy very, very rigid conditions over here. There is no such thing as single parent allowance, carers allowance, fuel allowance, disability allowance. There's nothing here. You pull up your sleeves and you pull up your socks and you go out and do what you have to do, and that's it.
And that adds, I presume, that adds horrendous mental pressure as well, and stress and strain, not knowing what's going to happen next week.
Exactly. There is no mercy here. Even with schoolwork, I've been quite adamant in defending the fact that it's not possible to maintain the pace expected from the Minister of Education. She thinks we're all robots. She thinks we can just switch on a computer, and most kids are left alone on the computer to follow lessons each day and do homework, and there's about 5 or 6 hours of homework expected at least. So it's just not working. It's a disaster basically, because there is no consideration given to the mental health well-being of anybody.
And yeah, the line is breaking up a little bit. Tell me, Lavinia, what are you going to do now in the next, let's say the next month, for example? How do things play out for you?
I honestly don't know. I don't know. I've got a few hours of teaching. I'm just going to move outside for 1 second. I've got a few hours of English teaching, and we're hoping that after the 18th of May, there will be a little bit of ease up on the restrictions again. Since Monday, We've been given the permission to get outside and get some exercise, walking, cycling or running in groups of 2 people maximum, and they have to stay 2 meters apart. I have exceptions because of my son. We can now go together, and we're supposed to stay 1 meter apart, but sometimes that's impossible. It's just impossible. He needs the physical contact of a hand or an arm just to give him that security. Work-wise, I don't know. I'm hoping the restrictions will be eased up a little, whereby we can maintaining safe distances, which I'm hoping that I can get back to some level of doing individual lessons. I don't know. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm going to reinvent myself. I just don't know.
Gosh, it just. And would you consider coming back to Ireland at some stage, or that's just not on the cards?
At the moment, it's difficult because my son is still has 4 more years of specialised secondary school here. He's in a school basically preparing for engineering. And of course, with personal family situations, that wouldn't be. It would be extremely difficult to organise. I don't have 100% say in that. It would have to come down to agreement. So
yes.
We don't know. Anyway, with the restrictions, the travel restrictions as well, it's extremely difficult. The ambassador, some people got an email to say Happy Easter and enjoy your Sunday dinner and have a great weekend, and that's it. We've had absolutely no support from Ireland. I don't even have the right to vote, because once you leave Ireland for 3 months, you automatically lose the right to vote.
What do you want to say to people in Ireland? People have been complaining about the restrictions here have been quite tough. It sounds like it's a lot more difficult in Italy.
I think if we all have common sense, I mean, it's a very, very difficult situation for everybody. And again, the Irish government are not doing any justice to Irish people whatsoever, and that's in general. I mean, we've got always had excuses and lack of interest in the 24/7 cardiac situation, the mental health situation. There are many, many things that need to be resolved, and they can't be just brushed under the carpet with using the excuse of the COVID-19. The only thing that we see and the world is seeing is the enormous effort of people, volunteers as usual, are people on the ground, getting up, doing things, helping each other, and it's amazing. Again, it doesn't happen quite so much here. If I can just give you numbers very, very quickly, we by law have to wear masks, we have to wear gloves when we go out, even driving alone in the car. If I can just give you a quick number, in a population of 60 million, okay, we have near on 30,000 who died in the last 10 weeks. And 90% of those have had underlying conditions. But recovered, people who have come back to full health are near on 90,000 people. And the people at the moment in the whole of Italy who have been tested with positive results are 98,467 as of yesterday at 6 o'clock. So these are the numbers we're looking at here in Italy at the moment.
Yeah. Lavinia, listen, you mind yourself, and we might try and catch you again in the next few weeks, if that's okay, to see how things are developing. And I know you want
Sure.
You want to just say a quick hello to all your family, don't you?
Absolutely. Hi to Mum and Dad, number 10, as we call it, and Ethel, my sister, Louise, my sister as well, and my brother, who's all the way off over in Australia, and all my aunts, uncles, cousins. We have a very, very big family over there, and all the neighbours and friends too. Please keep safe, everybody. Don't feed into the fear factor. Use common sense. Be careful and look out for each other and yourselves too.
Lavinia, you take care and mind yourself, and thank you very much.
I will. Thank you, Damien, for calling. Bye.
Lavinia Doyle there talking to us from Lombardy, and stay safe, Lavinia, and your family, and hello to all the family here in Ireland. We've had a text in, an email actually, in about some calves that are loose on the hurtle that's near Faith Leg. If anybody's lost a few calves, people talk about losing dogs and cats, but there's 2 calves loose there. We will come back with a lot more things besides. Dunn Store staff are wearing masks, says this texter. And can you find out about the exposition of the Blessed Sacrament, says this other texter. Thanks everybody for your contributions today. Thanks Julie for producing. And Jeff is up next. We'll talk to you tomorrow for Happy Friday.